There we go.
Hey! I was
Nailed
worried about it
it.
for a second. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Rough Draft, presented by the Draft Team and UFTA Sports. Both of those have .coms after them if you want to go look at them. They got some great written content by some people who are on the show. Both of them do. Well, I mean, UFTA Sports doesn't really exist yet. Um,
Working on it though.
it's all solidifying. Just if you want
Yeah.
Joe's business plan, just we don't know what it is. We're just throwing it all out there. We're going for it.
We don't actually know what we're doing. We're just kind of throwing stuff out there and seeing what sticks.
We're just like throwing. We're just going out into the ether. No plan. Just hoping for the best. All right, we are a week away from the draft. About. I thought it was this week on Sunday when we had our meeting.
Yeah, you
Um,
scared me
I
there.
was like, I'm ready. I'm ready for it. And then I was like, oh, turns out it's next week. Oops. So, but we have a little Josh Frey mock draft round one on the site. You released this yesterday.
Yes.
Is there any ones that in particular that you would like to talk about?
Um, so I feel like this was pretty straightforward, at least in the top five. I do think that the New England trade is the most likely one to happen at Wonder Four, but I wouldn't count out somebody like Carolina doing that as well. Um, I think the most interesting pick is Jamar Chase falling to 11 at the Giants because I think a lot of people have him going even in the top five. Um, but like you can see, I don't have a single wide receiver going in the top 10, and I feel like that's something that most people have.
Yeah, I think most people have Chase going in the top 10, and then Waddle going in the top like 15, and then Smith going in the anywhere between 10 and the end of the round, honestly,
Right.
which is very interesting for the first Heisman candidate, like Heisman winner wide receiver in 20 whatever years, and he's like some people don't have him in the top 15. That's crazy, honestly.
Yeah. The criticisms with like his weight, I mean, I get it if he's been injured, but other than that finger thing you had in the championship game, there hasn't been anything.
Yeah. Yeah, I really don't get it. I like him as a prospect. I think it's pretty much one and two, one, two, and three for me as far as him, Chase, and Waddle. I'd probably give the edge to Waddle just because I like him a little more, his play style a little more. But Smith is going to be extremely good, and if he goes outside the top 15, somebody's going to be very happy. Um, let's see anything else interesting. Caleb Farley at 15. We talked about that a little bit. That was you had this as New England moving up, and then the Falcons moving back to 15 and getting Farley at 15.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a world where he falls farther than that. But like I've mentioned on other shows, I'm pretty high on him. So I think 15 is a really good spot for him to go. And if Atlanta trades down and ends up with him at 15, I think that's great value.
Yeah, I think they would be extremely happy with that as a front office too, especially because they might be willing to run the wheels off of Matt Ryan without finding the next answer. So that'll be fun for them.
Yeah. I mean, they've got a new GM, and I feel like he's still got a few more years to play with before things actually start to get serious. So I don't think picking a quarterback this year is going to be a huge need for them. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I think they could go with someone in the middle rounds, Trask or oh, what's his name, Mond.
Yeah, Mond.
Yeah. Okay, and hey, somewhat of a of a well put together transition. You have Najee Harris going 24 to the Steelers because you wrote another article about the Steelers needing to target a running back early in the draft.
Yeah, so the news broke this week that the Steelers are definitely going to be focusing on picking up a running back, if not in the first round, early in the second round. And I think Najee Harris is a good pick there at 24. I mean, a lot of people talk about how they wouldn't take a running back in the first round, but I think both Harris and Etienne are both really good guys that you could take in the later first round and will add value to your team. Like, they're definitely the top two running backs in this draft. So why not snag them if they're there at the end of the first?
Yeah, I think that's like the perfect sweet spot for like a running back in today's game. Is like you don't pick people in the top 10 as a running back unless they're going to be actually more of a Christian McCaffrey where he plays wide receiver half the time and running back half the time, and they do it extremely well. I think late first round is kind of the norm that we're starting to see, and as the game balances out to be more pass heavy. Just for reference, I thought I would look at who the Steelers have had starting at running back for the past, a long time, and it's a very good lineup of James Conner, Le'Veon Bell, D'Angelo Williams for a year, Le'Veon Bell. Jonathan Dwyer is an outlier a little bit. Mendenhall, he had a few good years there. Willie Parker, it's just going all the way back to Jerome Bettis. In that whole time, they've had at least one running back, I feel like, that they could just hand off to on any given down and get, a decent chunk of yards, no matter what. So yeah, it definitely fits their MO as a team.
Yeah, I mean, James Conner wasn't good for them at all last year either. Like, since his 2018 year, he's had, I think, a total of 1,100 rushing yards. So it's definitely something they need to improve. It's something they've been really good at in the past. And with this wide receiver crew being this good, with their offensive line being pretty set, their defense is still great. Like, I think this is a perfect time to pick a running back.
Yeah, especially because similar to what we said about Matt Ryan, Pittsburgh's ready to run Big Ben into the ground, and he kind of deserves as much rain as he wants after winning them, championships. So
yeah,
he gets it, much like not like Matt Ryan, but much like Eli Manning in New York. He's gonna get his leeway, and that's okay.
You earned it, yeah.
You earned it, bud. Okay, I had an article about Rick Spielman's draft hit rate, which we can kind of relate back. You had Kwity Paye at 14, which is fine. It's about like on par with what we think is going to happen. But I wrote an article diving more deeply into Rick Spielman's draft history since he started as official like GM in 2012. And the rate itself is not great. He has 34 hits in 9 seasons, and that's against let me see if I can do quick math, 26, 34, 45, 53, 63, 73, 82, and 92. So 34 out of 92. So about 1 in 3, give or take.
1 in 3. That was impressive.
Hey, I went to college. I graduated with a degree. I only took 1 math class in college, but that's okay.
Yeah, no, I didn't take any, so we're doing great.
we're just on a roll here. But yeah, the thing that I noticed, and like this is gonna happen with any GM, is like since the last since round 5, 6, and 7 are essentially all flyers for the most part. Like it's really rare that a guy doesn't live up to his potential unless he's a punter or a kicker, or like it's really rare to call those guys hits. Mm-hmm. But it's also not really expected for them to be hits, so it's okay. So what I wish I had the time to do this, but this had already taken me like a week, and I was like, I just want to get this out. But if you look at most of his hits I did do a little bit of the math. He has 21 of those 34 come in the first 4 rounds. So he's had 13 hits in the mid rounds, but they were all role players outside of, I think, Stephon Diggs might have been the 5th round, or he was 4th round. either way, basically, you only get role players in the middle rounds, and you rarely, it rarely works out the right way or to be any better than that. And
Right.
that's okay unless you have a bunch of misses in the first round, which Rick Spielman is not amazing. A lot of it's due to luck and just like dudes missing. Like Matt Khalil was amazing his first season, made a Pro Bowl, was like second or third team All Pro as a left tackle, and we thought that like the left tackle position was sorted for 10 years. And then he was completely terrible the next few years that he was on the team, and now he's out of the league. So Sharif Floyd had injuries. Xavier Rhodes is a hit, even though now he's not good. Like he had a few years there where he helped him really a lot. Barr
Oh,
is
he
a
was good
hit.
last year.
Yeah, well, just not on the Vikings though.
Right, not on the Vikings though.
Anthony Barr is a hit, and I'll fight anybody who says he isn't. Teddy Bridgewater's a miss. Obviously, we know about that one. Trey Waynes was a hit. Eric Kendricks was a hit. Laquan Treadwell was a huge miss. Oh my goodness.
Oh man. Yeah, that's fun.
I love it. Mackenzie Alexander, I'm calling a hit right now, but that was in the second round.
Yeah, we'll see how it does this year too.
Yeah. Mike Hughes, so far a miss. Garrett Bradbury, so far a miss. Justin Jefferson, obviously so far a hit.
Massive hit.
Jeff Gladney, that's going to be a miss for me, dog.
Yeah. You think?
Yeah, so, I mean, it's not bad. It's not bad. The thing that I wrote about and that most Vikings fans are concerned about is that, like, zero of his hits are of offensive linemen, except for Brian O'Neill, and I'm currently marking Ezra Cleveland as a hit, but it's very tenuous.
Yeah, we'll see what happens this year. Depending on, we don't even know where he's going to play at this point. So,
Right. It's like you could be the left tackle or you could be the right guard. So
pretty much the same thing.
you can either be the most or the least important position on the line.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically, who knows, man? It's okay, but like he had some stinker drafts in there that not necessarily his fault, but
Yeah.
the seat definitely should be warm, I think.
For sure. I mean, the one thing he's got going this year for him is there just seems to be so many really good guys in that first round that are going to go.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, it's going to be harder to miss, like whatever position you take.
Yeah. I mean, I double-edged, though. Like, if you miss in a draft that's loaded with talent, look at how bad that looks,
Also true, yeah.
Like, I think I sent it to I sent it to you and Joe the one night because I was just like looking back through drafts and just looking at Mitchell Trubisky at 2, and then all of the names after him in the first round that are just like big stars. It's like,
yeah, like even if they just stayed put and took Solomon Thomas, like they would have been set.
Would have been fine. You wrote a draft profile on Elijah Moore.
Yeah.
Would you like to talk about the Ole Miss wide receiver?
Yeah, Ole Miss. So this is a guy that I feel like has gone a bit under the radar here. I kind of feel similarly to what I talked about with Jadarius Atwell. I think he's going to be a guy that goes in the middle rounds. Not a lot of people are going to talk about it. And then he's going to show up on the NFL fields week 1, and he's going to have a really good performance. And all of a sudden we're going to be like, oh my goodness, who's this guy? He's pretty much a slot guy. He's got really good speed. He's a better route runner than Atwell. So I'll give him credit there. But yeah, I just feel like he's going to be a guy that's going to go to a team and make an impact right away. And he's going to have really great value in the middle rounds. I have him projected in the mid-second to early third, so a little bit higher than Atwell again. But I think he's better than Atwell. So he's going to be a good guy.
Is he? Does he return punts at all?
I didn't see any of that.
Okay. He
I
just
might be
seems
wrong,
like the type to slot into that role pretty well. But I mean, who knows? Just another thing that could give him a chance in the
yeah,
you
for
know
sure.
to make an impact when he gets there. Um, but yeah, I think that's kind of like the prototypical like way to draft wide receivers now is to, if you're gonna miss out on the big target guys, like the guys who have all the physical traits and the speed and like can play anywhere, the Justin Jeffersons, if you will. Um, if you're not gonna get them, get the game breakers like slot guys in the middle rounds, and then you um, either hope to find somebody who can play on the outside or use tight ends in the red zone, figure something out around that. But I think that like middle round slot guy is such a big commodity that you're right. I think Moore has a very good chance to just burst on the scene and light it up, especially if he goes to a place that already has a good established like outside receiving core.
Right. And I'm looking at the stats now. He didn't do a ton of punt returning or kick returning in college, but his freshman year, he returned 22 kicks. And then in his 2019, he returned 14 punts. So, I mean, it's not a huge sample size, but I mean, it's still there. So,
Yeah, you could definitely like let him try to do that, and as long as he chose to be reliable, that's like the biggest thing on punts. That's why Marcus
mm,
Sherrills was so good for so long, is because he broke one, often enough, but it's because he was able to catch so many and field so many with good momentum going forward, not fumble the ball. Punt returners, they're important, apparently.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, ask the Vikings.
Yeah, definitely didn't have just 8 yards in punt returns halfway through the season.
Right. Yeah. I mean, almost didn't lose a game on a muff punt or anything like that
The
either.
same game too, where that stat came out, where it's like they've got 8 yards so far this season on punt returns. Oof.
uh, yeah. Good
Thank,
times.
thank you, Kirk Cousins, for bailing us out on that one, and BB. I mean, he made the catch in the end zone.
Yeah. I mean, it was a good moment.
All right, one more draft profile that's currently up, and then I'll talk about one that I'm in the process of writing. Quinn Miners from, is this
Oh,
Stout
UW Whitewater.
Whitewater? That's what it is.
Yeah, the D3 guy.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is a guy I've been pretty intrigued by for a while, basically ever since his Senior Bowl. Um, he's made a lot of headlines since then, but I feel like he's kind of stopped being talked about. He's basically, you know what you're going to get out of this guy. He's not the most athletic guy on the field, but he's born and raised to play guard in the NFL. Like he's 6'4", 320 pounds. He's a massive dude. He works hard. He's going to be in the trenches. He's gonna make an impact, and he's going to open up running lanes. So, I mean, in the middle rounds, again, you're going to swing for the fences. You might as well take him, and he's going to hit.
Sounds like a good fit for the Minnesota Vikings, except for the fact that apparently they only draft people who can also play tight end at the same time.
Right.
I'm
Oh,
just
man.
saying they like their linemen a little light in the loafers, so to speak.
Yeah, and
I hope I'm using that idiom correctly, because I said it and
I'm
like
not
I've
sure.
heard it.
Who knows?
Dude, I hope I didn't just make a.
Are we gonna get canceled on Twitter now?
Yep, I messed it up. Look, this is me canceling myself. It's time to be done. Oof. That was a bad one. That was a bad one.
Nice, nice.
He's not skinny. Okay, the
Yeah,
Vikings like their linemen to be very athletic.
just Google pictures of him. You'll find out.
You'll find out. He's a thick boy. Um, the draft profile that I am working on right now. Now that this is my final moment in any sort of public eye, um, Jeremiah Ousu Koromoa, um, linebacker slash defensive back from Notre Dame. I think he's a defensive back, personally. I think he's a safety who will play up at the line of scrimmage on first and second downs. and maybe third down some, but I think he's being overlooked in this class because of that, because he played linebacker in college and he's going to have to make some sort of like slight positional switch unless he goes to a place that has a positionless defense.
Mhm.
Um, which if he goes there, he'll be a hit day one, I'm sure. But yeah, I think this guy is a very, very athletic guy who has plus coverage skills for a linebacker, especially. Um, and he plays with such like physicality and downhill that like you don't really notice his size difference, especially when going up against ball carriers. The only thing is he's not gonna bang up inside and like stop a bunch of runs by himself in the middle of the field. But I mean, I don't think you need to have that. You need to have the guy, especially in the NFL, who's going to make the plays off the edges. And time again on his tape, you see him make the play on the edge, on the wide receiver screen. It's just incredibly impressive. And I think you have him going at 18 or something.
Yeah, somewhere around there. Let me pull it up again so we can be sure. Oh shoot.
You have it 25, which is
25, yeah.
I've seen him as high as like 13 or 14, but yeah, I think he's going to go in that late teens, early 20s um, area, and I think he's going to be incredibly impressive. Especially like I think he's going to probably be up there for defensive rookie of the year.
I think so too. Like you talked about it, his athleticism is crazy. He can play all over the field. I wrote a little bit about him in my Jaguars mock draft, which is ironically where I have him going in this one too. I just like his fit on Jacksonville, and I think under Urban Meyer he can really blossom into a really good defender.
Yeah, I think it's and I think Meyer would be so happy to get a guy who is able to um, make up some ground. This is something we saw early in Anthony Barr's career. Is like because he was so athletic and like so able to move freely and in a bad defense. Let's be real; like they were
Mhm.
not a great defense. Before he was able to kind of play within himself, he was crazy. He made crazy plays, crazy highlight plays. It was all over the place. I think he's been reined in by the scheme and the fact that he's got a lot of people around him, and he maybe doesn't play as well now because of that, or like doesn't show up as well. Um, so the mistakes that you see are magnified because of that. He's not making 20 tackles a game or like making an interception or a crazy run down, knock the ball out because he's not all over the field. Um, but I still think that athleticism translates so well to helping teams like grow and having people to rally around. And I think Anthony Barr meant that to a lot of those like earlier mid tens teams. Because just to have a guy who can break the game like that is just crazy important.
Yeah, and like you said with Owusu Koromoa, like he's probably better off as a coverage guy too. So especially somewhere like Jacksonville where he can do that specific role. Like they pretty much rebuilt that defensive line for them. They don't really need much more on that front.
Mm-hmm.
So if he can be more of a safety kind of guy, come up to the line of scrimmage on first and second down, that's a really good role, and that's pretty much that would get him defensive player of the year, I think, or rookie of the year.
Defensive player of the year. Wow,
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
going for it.
Maybe someday.
Josh is calling a shot right now.
That's right.
Um, but yeah, I think it's a really good fit, and I think Jacksonville is needs more defensive back help. Like you said, they pretty much have the line figured out. But if they had a guy who could play both defensive back and then slide up and help, that would be choice for them. I mean, anybody would want that, honestly. Everybody
Yeah.
wants the Harrison Smiths of the world. That jersey investment still paying off. still able to wear it.
Yeah,
The Laquan Treadwell, not so much. That
not as
one's,
much. You
but
win
that's
some, you lose some.
yeah, exactly. Um, I'm 50-50 right now on the like real jerseys. So, um, that is all we have for content right now. We're going to be adding more in the coming days. I'll have that Osu Koromoa.
Koromoa? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a hard one. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. But I'll have that up soon.
Yeah.
And then we'll be back at least next week, maybe on Friday. We'll see. I'll probably post some more Jared stuff, so keep an eye out on that. Jared Barsness. He's on Twitter as well. If you want to see that, you can go on his articles. And I think I link his Twitter in every single one so far because he deserves it. He's got great content. But that is it for Rough Draft, the Rough Draft podcast today, the final Rough Draft podcast, because I said that thing in the middle that will probably get canceled for.
Yeah.
So it was fun. It was a fun like 3 or 4 episodes, but we'll see you
Runs over.
never again, I guess. All right.
All right.